I know it has been a hectic day for you with a lot of banks declaring the results. So thank you for joining the call, and I will start with some macro commentary and then go into the bank-specific details. At the macro level, India has been through one of the most stringent lockdowns across the world. The country is, however, opening up in a phased manner since May. Many ultra-high frequency indicators such as power demand, fuel consumption, e-way bills, toll collection, etc. have shown rapid improvement in the last couple of months. Economic activity implied by these indicators is now down only 10 to 15% year-on-year. However, pace of recovery may slow going forward as the pent-up demand surge due to lockdown eases and reintroduction of lockdowns in some containment zones. Rural economy, nevertheless, continues to be faring better than the urban side, and that is evident in our portfolio as well. Overall, credit growth is still hovering around 6%, and the issues remain due to risk awareness in the financial system from redemption pressure on mutual funds, lower appetite for some AA bonds, also due to some perception around credit funds. Credit growth may benefit with some shift from bond market to banks, interest capitalization, and MSME schemes. I believe the government and RBI are taking a calibrated approach to assess the actual economic impact of COVID-19 and the measures announced so far. There is room for further fiscal and monetary measures depending on how economic activity pans out. The 3 trillion financial support for MSME is a very good initiative with sanctions by the banks cutting 40% of the target. Now coming to the bank-specific commentary, during the quarter we focused on ensuring minimal disruption due to COVID-19. 90% of our branches were operational at all times with no disruption in client servicing. Deposit mobilization, we saw 5% quarter-on-quarter growth with retail deposit growth of greater than 5,000 crores despite the lockdown. Building liquidity buffers, we now carry 30,000 crores as evident in our balance sheet of excess liquidity. Stability in operating profits, Q1 PPOP at margin at 3.95%. Conservative asset recognition and provisioning, accelerated slippages by not allowing day count freeze and improved PCR to 67%. Raising capital to boost CRAR. I will first talk about capital, and you all would have seen the board has approved a preferential issue of capital of rupees 3,288 crore or USD 440 million. The fund raise will add 125 basis points to our capital adequacy, taking our overall CRAR to around 16.5%. This includes the existing 15.16 plus 14 basis points of current quarter profit plus 1.25 from the capital raise. The issue saw participation from strategic as well as long-term investors. The promoters of the bank are also participating in the fundraise to maintain their 15% holding, reflecting their continued support and confidence they have in the bank. Shares to be issued to Route 1, Tata, ICICI Prudential, and AIA will have a 1-year lock-in in being qualified institutional buyers, while issues to promoters and Hinduja Capital will be locked in for 3 years being non-qualified institutional buyers. With stable and growing liability base and comfortable capital buffers, the bank is well positioned for growth and as well the economy recovers. In terms of some of the operational highlights, in the context of COVID, we changed our approach from moratorium 1.0 to moratorium 2.0. In moratorium 1.0, we had offered an opt-out to all eligible retail customers and opt-in for corporate customers. In 2.0, we are following an opt-in for all customers across retail and corporate segments except microfinance, which remains an opt-out. Due to the nature of the business, we continue to run educational campaigns on collections across the portfolios, notwithstanding the availability of moratorium. At the overall bank level, The portfolio under moratorium is 14% excluding microfinance. Of this, 90% is secured. As said earlier, microfinance is an opt-out model, but we are seeing good traction on collections. Adjusting for MFI customers who have paid more than 4 installments, bank level moratorium will be 16%. These numbers are all by value of the loans, and if we use volume numbers for retail, then the respective numbers would be 8% and 11%. About 92% of the customers in moratorium 2.0 have also availed moratorium 1.0. At the segment level, we have retail portfolio at 19% under moratorium and corporate at 9% by value. A considerable section of our customer base is eligible for guaranteed emergency credit line and can cumulatively avail disbursements of 3,200 crore. However, less than 2% of the eligible customers have so far taken this facility amounting to rupees 117 crore disbursement, implying comfortable liquidity position with these borrowers. We have seen sizable number of customers taking moratorium and still paying their dues. There have been numerous combination of customers who have taken moratorium for 1 or 2 months, or just for interest or principal, or paid money in the account but not applied towards moratorium, etc. All these combinations create confusion, and I believe the right metric to look at is the trend in collection efficiency and by when it will get back to normalcy for assessing the recovery rather than just the moratorium number. Keeping that in mind, I want to share recent performance of some of our portfolios to give you further color on how we are trending. Significant part of our portfolio is in rural, semi-urban areas, which are comparatively less affected and hence have seen good recovery post relaxation in lockdown. Vehicle financing. We believe our focus on the small road transport operators will keep us in good stead in this crisis as well. This being a largely owner-operator segment, it is not impacted by the lack of drivers that may impact fleet operators. Current slowdown in the CV sales is also helping the existing capacity with better utilization. We saw strong improvement in collection efficiency from a low of 30-35% in April to around 75% currently. We have over 30 years of operating history with more than 70% repeat customers. The credit behavior for 3 decades is unlikely to change due to a 3-month payment holiday. In my opinion, portfolio or moratorium less than, portfolio or all moratorium is less than 20% by value and 10% by volume. Microfinance. We kept constant engagement with our client base and with over 6 crore calls since the lockdown began. That helped us hit the ground running when the rural areas opened up in May. We have seen rapid increase in the collection efficiency every week, and as can be seen in the disclosure. The trends so far are better than what we had seen post demonetization. Our collections are tracking well over 80% of the weekly dues. Over 82% of our customers have started paying, and if we exclude customers who have excess issues, over 92% of our customers have paid some of their installments post-lockdown. The uniqueness of the portfolio in terms of geographic diversification, rural focus, ticket sizes and exposure much below the industry, weekly collections, professional management with years of experience are key differentiators that we believe will help us outperform in the industry in this crisis as well. Other retail products. LAP and business banking are well-secured portfolios with low LTV and typically provide residential properties as collateral. The churn in these accounts indicates activity level at the customer level is back to 80 to 85%, which means businesses are steadily returning to normalcy. Our credit card book is just 3% of the overall loan. About 15% of our customers have opted for moratorium and repayment, and resolution rate is at 70%. We continue to see recovery in card spend, which are at 82% of the pre-COVID level. Personal loans and other unsecured portfolios are quite small and don't turn the needle for the bank. Corporate bank. Portfolio under moratorium is 9%. Of this, large corporate segment has lower, while mid and small corporates have a higher proportion under moratorium. We have seen corporates opting for moratorium out of caution and preserving liquidity. Borrowers opting for moratorium are spread across multiple sectors. In terms of some sensitive sectors, in real estate, we have 10% of the book in moratorium. 92 out of 98 projects have started construction substantially, while the balance are in resource mobilization mode and expect to resume construction soon. In NBFCs and HFCs, we don't have any clients on moratorium, and there are no overdues as of June. Gems and jewelry. The portfolio continues to maintain resilience despite the current turbulence. Its entire customer base is paying their installments except for a small 5 crore exposure which has availed moratorium. In mid-corporate, portfolio churn is at 85 to 90% of the last quarter average, indicating that the business operations activity across for the customers. Our exposure to affected sectors such as travel, tourism, education, etc. are small but are being monitored continuously. We refrain from providing relief to visibly weak accounts and have accelerated NPA recognition in such cases, which I will talk about later. I also want to highlight as one additional disclosure on fund and non-funded BBB rated book of the corporate segment of roughly 46,000 crore. We wanted to show you, one, the book has portfolios which inherently get rated as BBB, but their credit behavior is superior. Example, gems and jewelry, sit here but has no NPA. Two, book is granular and well collateralized. Example, real estate and lease rental discounting. Three, across the cycle, slippages has been steady at 0.4%. We do closely monitor credit behavior of this book, and our internal ratings are conservative compared to external ratings. Credit outcome so far has been in a narrow range. We have completed our second stress test, sensitivity analysis, and reassessing our initial assumptions. In stress test 2, we incorporated recent economic trends on recovery as well as borrowers' behavior and our feedback to fine-tune our earlier assumptions. We continue to believe that rural, MFI and retail finance segments will perform much better than the perception that is being made out. However, due to the sharp contraction in demand and based on our actual observation on the ground, we believe net incremental slippages due to COVID will be 92 basis points versus 83 basis points in stress test 1.0. Combined with higher PCR ambition, our incremental provision cost for the year due to COVID is estimated at 65 basis points versus 53 basis points in stress test 1.0. Please note that this is before loss given default, i.e. realization of security held for the lending. We are seeing minor fluctuations in collections depending on certain areas get locked down again, and that risk of COVID remains. We have made additional provisions of rupees 920 crores this quarter, taking our total COVID-19 provisions to 1,203 crores, which is broadly in line with the outcomes of our stress test outcomes. We remain conservative on our provisioning approach, and if required, we will make further provisioning in the coming quarter if recovery remains weaker than expected. At this stage, we hold total COVID provision representing 90% of our provisioning required, estimated in stress test 2.0. Next, I would like to come on the financial highlights for the quarter and full year. Quarter 4 witnessed steady operating performance with revenues up by 1% year-on-year and operating profits at 2,950 crore, which is up by 13% year-on-year. Our PPOP over assets was a healthy at 3.95%. Net interest income grew by 16% year-on-year despite loan growth of only 2% year-on-year. NIM improved 3 basis points from 4.25 to 4.28%, driven by a fall in cost of deposits sequentially. Other income was down by 9% due to lower client fees impacted by the lockdown and lower economic activity. Treasury income was strong due to surplus securities and lower rates, and this income was used to increase our provision cover. We still carry good NPM position and can monetize at an appropriate time. We saw good traction on our deposit during the quarter of 5% quarter-on-quarter growth. We ramped up our digital acquisition during the lockdown, followed by resumption in the physical acquisition in June with relaxation in lockdown. Our June customer acquisition was higher than the pre-COVID level. We improved the deposit mix as well as by reducing contribution of certificates of deposit to below 10% versus around 15% quarter on quarter. Our credit to deposit ratios improved to around 94%. Bulk of the value growth happened towards end May and end June once the lockdown was relaxed. While we are paying a tactical premium for a fixed deposit retailization, maybe for another 1 or 2 quarters, our overall cost of deposit fell by 32 basis points due to repricing of old book and sharp reduction in the corporate deposit rate. Further, as borrowings are also getting repriced lower, our cost of funds fell by 42 basis points quarter on quarter. After the event of last quarter, we have taken proactive steps to shore up our liquidity, and our quarter-end LCR was at 139% and an average LCR was 124%. We are carrying excess liquidity of greater than 30,000 crore currently in the form of government, AAA securities or bank balances. Our borrowing book of 60,000 crore has only 12% in short-term borrowings other than borrowings against our money market instruments. We slowed our disbursement due to COVID-19 during the quarter and also sold down some corporate loans, resulting in a 2% year-on-year loan growth. This resulted in the loan mix improving in favor of retail business at 58% to 42% for the corporate bank. This also had the benefit of slightly reducing the RW intensity from 84% to 82%. Operating costs were down by 1% year-on-year, 11% quarter-on-quarter, resulting in the cost-to-income ratio of 39% from 43% quarter-on-quarter. The cost saving accrued on account of lower disbursement, activity reflecting the variability in some business cost structures, and therefore cost will go up on revenue pickup. Our total provisions were at 2,259 crores. During the quarter, we have increased our PCR from 63% to 67%. We have raised COVID-19 related provisions to 1,203 crores from 283 crores last quarter. We have also made a further standard provision of rupees 75 crores for the telecom sector in addition to the existing 75 crore standard provision. We have recognized and made provision this quarter on weak accounts both in the corporate and consumer side. We did not take benefit of the day count fee and have accounted the provision impact. Our 90% of the slippages are due to conservative recognition on standard accounts. With these recognitions, our SMA 1 and 2 overdue book of 70 basis points as of March 2020 gets reduced to 35 basis points. While GNPA flattish at 2.5%, despite accelerated slippages and denominator effect, net NPA fell from 0.91% to 0.86% due to higher PCR ratio. We have fully written off our exposure to a large infra group at both HoldCo and SPV level. Our provision coverage ratio, including specific standard and floating provisions, stand at 96% of the loan-related provisions, and the loan-related provisions stand at 2.15% of the loan book. Our PAT for the quarter was 510 crores. Our capital adequacy improved to 15.16% due to lower intensity quarter-on-quarter. CRAR, including quarter one profit, would be 15.35 versus 15.04% last quarter. In conclusion, we have progressed on retailization of deposits, liabilities leading a growth, and conservative loan recognition and provisioning. I think this balance sheet realignment coming at the right time and comfortable capital adequacy will position us for the growth revival likely in the second half of the year. Our vehicle division is already seeing initial signs of recovery. Two-wheelers, tractors and cars are quickly getting back to pre-COVID levels. CV should follow post-monsoon. Microfinance disbursements in volume terms are already at 86% of pre-COVID, but we have conservatively dropped the ticket sizes for now. We are fine-tuning our corporate towards working capital and granular loans. We aim to grow deposits by around 5% quarter-on-quarter, along with the CASA ratio above 40%. So overall, we are executing the business build-out philosophy outlined in the Q4 analyst call. That's all for now, and we can open up the call for questions.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may please press star, then 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star, then 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Anyone who wishes to ask questions, please press star, then 1. The first question is from the line of Kunal Shah from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking the question. Firstly, in terms of the when we look at it, the way the moratorium would have come off, maybe currently you highlighted it's around about 14%. So how has it come off from April and May level? And what would be maybe the overdues which would be there, which are not as a part of moratorium at this point in time? So maybe we would have not recovered anything out there. Yeah.
I think first of all, our moratorium with the MFI book is 16%, and moratorium without the MFI book is 14%. So I think I just wanted to, and that is on value basis, and on a volume basis, it is excluding MFI 8% and with MFI 11%. So that's something which you just want to. We had almost half of the book in moratorium, booked in moratorium in the first part of our moratorium, of which consumer was around 75% and the corporate was at 23%. Customers who availed moratorium 1 have either started paying or have taken moratorium 2. Most of the customers who have already paid their March installment before moratorium 1 was announced. We have also received some collections in April and May as well. So the actual impact of a moratorium 1 is only a delay in a collection of 1 to 1.5 months. This will get recovered over the tenure of the borrower. Moratorium 1, so as such, is now history, and we have to see how many opt for moratorium 2 and collection post that. If you look at it, in moratorium 2, 16% of the bank book is under moratorium, 19% is consumer, 9% is corporate, of which collections have started. I think the change is okay. Overall change on the thing is about 34%. 46% of the consumers there is a change, and 14% in the corporate side, of which collection started. 36% have started paying out of that in the change in moratorium 2, and 14% have started paying as the change of the change in the. Yeah.
Just to clarify, I just want to go through the numbers again because these things can be a little confusing. So in moratorium 2, 16% of the bank is in moratorium, 19% is from consumer, and 9% is from corporate. So as far as corporate is concerned, the 34 now we are down to 34% for the bank as a whole, of which 14% is corporate, and all of them are paying, and they remain under moratorium. So today we are at 14%. Out of the 46% in consumer, 36%, which is almost 2/3 or a little more than 2/3, are actually paying, and only 10% is where collections have not started. So it's just the 10% now, which is the collection, the list of clients who may take moratorium 2 because this is still available in August, or start paying dues, or the collections may eventually slip into NPA. So it's a mix of 3 or 4 buckets which sits in this 10%, which is indeterminate. Everything else is absolutely clear.
Yeah, so on retail, sorry, again to touch upon, so corporate was down from 23 to 9%.
Correct.
And the retail was down from more than 70 to 19% in value terms.
70 75% to
75% down to 19%, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that leaves 46%.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that is, so almost say 75 to 90, so that is almost 56 odd percent. Out of this, you are saying 46 are actually paying and 10% are where collections have not yet started. The breakup of this 56. Proper? Yeah. And on the corporate, so on corporate again from 23 to 9, so there in terms of the
Segments, and it's not very different across the segments.
Okay, sure. And the second question is on the corporate book. So in fact, when we look at it, largely the rundown which is there on the loan book, that's primarily on the corporate side. So what would be the reason for that? Is it like there are maybe the transfers which are happening because our MCLR is much higher, maybe almost like 150, 160 bits higher compared to most of the other players. So are we seeing some kind of a business transitioning away from IndusInd to some other banks? And if that's the case, maybe how should we look at this entire portfolio? And given this kind of an MCLR, what would be our stance in terms of the overall corporate growth? And given that on the deposits now it's overall we are seeing the accretion. So any plans to further reduce the deposit rates as well as MCLR, which we have not touched much over last 2 odd quarters?
So let me answer this question. I think on the corporate book side, we had sold down our 3,600 crores of corporate exposure to bring our CD ratio down to less than 100%, and that is at 94% as of now. And we want to bring it down to between 90 to 95%, and that is our benchmark which we want to maintain on the corporate side of the book. I think we also saw some repayments coming in the NBFC as well as gems and jewelry book, and I think these payments are important to be tracked, and I think we saw some repayments. Our disbursements have been slow right now. We were very cautious at this point of time in taking fresh disbursements or fresh approvals as of now. So there's nothing to say that we are not competitive in the corporate market. We know the segments which we want to operate in, and I think we are very good in those segments, and we will, of course, it will become more granular, it will become more retail. But I think a corporate book will come back. It's only a matter of time. We are just being cautious as of now in growing our book on the corporate side. We just want to see how the COVID completely plays out before we. And if we grow, we are looking at AA and AAA rated paper for the time being.
So in terms of the strategy on the deposit rates as well as cut in MCLR, if any, because we have been the slowest amongst all the private banks.
Let me tell you, Kunal, and I think you have a valid question, and we've been asked this question. I think we have kept our term deposit rate on the retail side elevated, not on the wholesale side of the book, which is the bulk deposit. We're as competitive as anybody on the bulk deposit side of the business, which is the wholesale side of the deposit. I think one of the reasons why we had to do it was if you look at the Basel III disclosure in the LCR, it was low, and a lot of people penalized us for being low on the LCR side, which was at 35%. If I go back to the history of the bank, you know that the bank was set up as a business owner segment bank, and our focus was to get to the business owner segment, and we never focused on the individual segment in a big way. Over a period of time, now we feel that we have a relevant size. We must grow our retail side, and at these points of time, I think the best way to grow is through the term deposit route, and where we kept an elevated. And our target is to mobilize 30,000 crores of term deposits at a ticket size of less than 2 crores, so that we actually mobilize a large number of clients and then start cross-selling it into them a savings account. During lockdown, we had no option other than to do that. Will we change our rate? I think I told you the hurdle rate is 30,000 crores. As and when we reach that number, I think we will see where we are, and at that point of time, the retail LCR for us would be around 54 to 55, which is the best in class in the industry on the Basel III disclosure. We want to get to be in the top 3 or the top 2 players on the Basel III disclosure. We want to get there, and I think we've chosen this way to do it. And I think over a period of time, yes, by 3 quarters away, you will be seeing the interest rate of deposits coming down.
Yeah, Kunal, I just want to come back to the first question that was made, because there was a small error in my table. So I just want to reconcile the number. Okay. So corporate was 23% moratorium 1, down to 9% moratorium 2, which leaves 14%, all of whom are paid. Okay, so that's corporate. As far as retail is concerned, 75% moratorium 1, down to 19% moratorium 2, which means 56% is the change, 46% are paying, and the 10% can go in 3 different directions. So just to reiterate those numbers.
Yeah, sure. Got it. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Adarsh from CLSA. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Sumant. Thanks for the disclosure on BBB book on the corporate side. So can you just clarify now of the corporate moratorium, how much of that is from the BBB book, if you can just indicate that?
It may be slightly higher than 9%. I don't think we disclose that much, but I think it's slightly higher than 9%. But it's not. We have also disclosed that over the cycle, our credit cost on that book or the total provision is not more than 40 basis points on that book. And I think we are not seeing anything different on that book as of now. So if you are saying that we are seeing that's why we gave the disclosure, because I thought there was a little bit of speculation which was being done on that book, and I think we wanted to give the comfort to the community that our credit cost in that book has been over cycles 40 basis points, and we are not seeing anything disturbing trend on the BBB rated book as of now.
Got it. And this is useful in terms of what you've disclosed on retail, gems and jewelry, and LRD. Can you speak about the other 2 parts, which is the small corporate and the other exposure, right? That forms like broadly 50% of this book, right? And it's a fairly large book again. So any more, this is to start off, this is extremely granular disclosure, but any sense on the other 2 parts, please, either in terms of sector or...
Yeah, Adarsh, so I think, look, the whole purpose, it's impossible to give a complete breakup, so we try to break it up as much as possible. Just to recap, in gems and jewelry, we haven't had an NPA for years together. Lease rental, same answer. Real estate, no NPAs. Non-funded exposure, very short term. Then you have the other 2 segments that you talked about. The small corporates, which have less than 100 crore ticket size, are pretty small. There's a very, very small sub-segment over there of maybe about 1,000 to 1,500 crores, which is sort of in that little more stressed segment of education, travel and tourism and things like that. It's a pretty small exposure in the other two segments. But having said that, even in the other exposures which are slightly bigger, where 24% of the BBB book is in about 50 to 60 clients, we have the entire exposure, almost 100%, 97% is collateralized. There is hardly any SMA 1 or 2, and it behaved well. I mean, I don't know what more breakup we can give you. I think what we try to explain is the BBB book is fairly granular. The 5-year slippage rate is only 40 basis points. Excluding that IL&FS issue, the 5-year average is only 40 basis points. And I think, let me also highlight, it's extremely important to understand that, we have seen in our credit committees, the way that these portfolios are being rated, because this is the internal rating that we provide you. We have seen over a period of 12 to 18 months, the external rating of these borrowers, including in the two segments that you talked about, falling down to our internal rating. So what I'm trying to say is that the external rating of this BBB book will be between a notch to 2 notches higher in the external world. So we'll probably be in that A- to BBB plus on an average if you were to do an external rating on this BBB book.
Got it. No, that is useful. The second question is on the fee side, right? So obviously there was less activity, and so we saw loan processing and investment banking come down. I just wanted to understand from the corporate fee angle, which would be investment banking and loan processing, is it that this is just like a 2-3 quarter disruption, or given that there is a change in stance of what we are trying to do on the corporate side, structurally one should not factor in like pre-COVID kind of fee momentum in some of these lines, right? So specifically investment banking and part of loan processing which was coming on the corporate side.
Like I told you, I think if you look at our fees, I think we were very balanced as a fee, where 50 to 55% of our fees should be consumer, 28% to 30% of our fees should be the global markets or the non-client fee, which we call it, and 25% of our fee, 20 to 25% of our fee would be corporate bank. And I think that is how you will see our fees. I think we like that model. I think if you are talking that the corporate fee was made out of structured finance, we have done that disclosure in our fee earlier on also in our presentation. It is only 2 to 3% of our fee. So it's not going to move the needle either way. I think what you will see is corporate bank will come back, and I think it will come back more in it will also do investment banking. The league tables, we are very cautious about the league tables and the deal syndication and the debt syndication. We'll continue to come in that league table. But yes, our corporate exposures will be more granular, will be more transaction oriented rather than term loan oriented. That's the only difference which we are trying to say. But yes, the fee may suffer for 2-3 quarters before they settle down, but it will start coming back. And I think the retail fee, I think did go down, because you know why the retail fee went down. It was because there was no business activity which was happening. You'll see a good momentum in the retail fee in the second quarter, and from third and fourth quarter you will see a hockey stick approach which is coming back. Of course, COVID is the unknown factor, and we have to all say that the country opens up. There are certain states which are closed, and I think, in my opinion, I think there will be, our fee may not grow, it may be constant, but I think we will reach the levels of last year as far as the fees is concerned, and the mix will change. I think the mix is moving towards consumer a bit more. 55% of our fee will be consumer, 25 to 30% will be from the corporate, from the global markets, and 15 to 20% from the corporate bank. And that is how we see our fees coming, and over a period of time, I think it will then move again back to corporate being 25% of our fees, 20-25% coming from global markets, and 50% coming from consumer. But it is just a matter of time, because they have said there's a change in stance on the corporate, and it's just turning right now.
Suman, thanks again for the disclosure on the triple B book. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Akshay Jain from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hi, this is Sameer here. Am I audible?
Yeah, Sameer, you are.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks for the opportunity. Firstly, just wanted to ask, I can't see the weighted average risk score slide this time round. I'm sure these are uncertain times, but some commentary on that side would be appreciated.
Mr. Bhandari, want to talk about that? The weighted average risk score, you're talking about the
vehicle finance book. Yeah, the vehicle finance book.
Yeah, so there is a DPD. I mean, I can tell you that I was not sure whether we should put it into the investor disclosure because there's a DPD account, but DPD freeze. But I can share with you that internally, I think it was 1.88 in the last quarter, and this quarter it is down to 1.87. What we did was we ignored the moratorium period and rewinded back by 6 months to arrive at that figure. But putting that figure in the public domain would have just confused people because of the DPD count, and that's why you don't see the slide, Sameer. But if I were to rewind 6 months and look at the behavior of the customer, it's actually fallen by 1 basis point. It's improved.
If you normalize to the previous conditions, there is an improvement in the behavior of the score.
Sameer, have we answered your question?
Yeah, that's helpful. And minor dip, but there is a QOQ kind of tapering off on the SA balances. What would explain that, given that we've kept our rate steady, whereas the market table has been coming off?
Two things, Sameer. One is there was cannibalization of about 1,500 to 2,000 crore, which happened on the term deposits, and I think that's continuously happening because we were going towards we're giving a good rate to the clients, and I think it creates the stickiness. We've seen if a customer has a term deposit, the stickiness of the client increases. So I think there was a little bit of cannibalization which was happening, and then there were about 2 accounts which were large value accounts which had a little bit of a higher rate, and we let them go. So that's all what is there, and I think we will continue to see that happening. I think it will come back, in my opinion.
Sure. Thank you for that. And just wanted to ask
what you should be seeing, Sameer, is the acquisition run rate, and I think the acquisition run rates are back to pre-COVID levels, and I think the savings account balance sheet will start seeing a growth now.
Sure. And finally, on the customer base, 26 million, how is that split between the micro and non-micro customers?
So microfinance is roughly around 8 million. Vehicle finance is 3 million. Liability, the SA customer base is 6 million. And the balance there are around which are standalone credit card, LAP, business banking customers.
Thank you. This is very helpful. All the best to you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sagar Shah from SK Analytics. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir. My first question was, as on June 20, what is the loan amount actually in which we have the asset classification customers are concerned in the percentage of loan book?
I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat the question?
Okay. What is the amount actually of the loan book to the customers, or to which as on June 20 we have given the asset classification benefit as per RBI guideline?
Yeah, that's 10%.
But no, what is it exactly for the loan bank?
What is the amount of loan book I'm saying?
Yeah, it's 3,000.
3,350 crores.
As on June 20, correct?
Yes.
Yes, about 1.6% of the bank's loan book.
Okay, so of that 1.6%, what percentage is the corporate loan book?
Very, very small.
Very small.
Very minuscule. I think it is made up of a commercial vehicle, which is about 1,800, or a little bit of a microfinance book, and a LAP book, a little bit of LAP. And small credit cards and personal loans, because we have a very small portfolio. Incidental. The corporate book is incidental in this.
Okay.
And please understand, this does not mean that these are NPLs, because collection rates are increasing. So this is just an overdue book at this point of time. And over the period of August and September, I think a significant collection will come back.
Okay.
It's possible that some of them may also take a moratorium. It's possible.
Okay. My second question, sir, as you said previously, about 9% of our corporate loan book is under moratorium as per the amount wise. Correct? So of that, which are the top 5 corporate sectors? Can you name, please?
No, there is no particular sector which is heavy. It's all pretty spread out.
Yeah, so can you name at least the top 5 sectors, even if they are spread out?
I think there are a couple of hotel projects which are there, because the hotel industry has been at this point of time disrupted. So we have a couple of the hotels. We have one or two steel companies which had disrupted in production, which is just starting back. So those are the kind of really, if I look at the really large ones. Otherwise, the rest of them are spread across smaller.
Okay. And one suggestion, sir, if you see in our investor presentation, you have given an exposure of our gross NPAs on the consumer finance side, on the slide number 25.
Yes.
I would suggest if you can give the GNPA numbers from GNPA onwards, GNPA numbers for our corporate side too, on the sector wise.
My sector is here. Your suggestion is noted.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The next question is from the line of Ritesh Bhatia from Asian Market Securities. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, Ritesh, we can hear you.
Yeah. Sir, in your presentation, there is one slide in which you given the breakup of other income, where the core fee income is declined by 52% year-on-year and 51% quarter-on-quarter. And mainly the 9% decline is led by the securities only, where we saw 248% year-on-year and 119% Q-on-Q upside. So how this sustainable securities and other income going ahead as well?
Let me answer this. First of all, you will see client income coming back. There was a moratorium and there was a lockup. So business has actually got affected, and you can't do third-party products or some of the product businesses without meeting clients. And I think that's where the business got affected. I think I told you that as the lockdown opened up, you would have seen that the business. So April was a complete washout as far as the fees was concerned. May we saw some activity. June we really saw some activity. In July we are seeing very good activity on the fee side. Again, there are intermittent lockdowns which happen. Securities is a business where you can't predict, and we have said that before, that there are mark-to-market gains, and it depends on at what interest rates and what duration of securities you hold at what point of time. And you have to transfer this into AFS, and that's the time when you start realizing the gain. Arun Khurana, who is the deputy CEO and heads the global market, can also now give you a better way on how he sees the going forward scenario on the security and whether it's sustainable. Arun?
I think Mr. Kathpalia already answered that question, but I'll just supplement that. So I think going forward we expect the yields to be soft. We have enough cushion as what we alluded to earlier with a 30,000 crore cash pile in there, which consists mainly of parts of cash and parts of excess securities. And I think to manage duration, we will be seeing how the yields move. And if they're going to be soft, I think we've got enough ammunition to sort of capture that move as well going forward. Having said that, rightly so, it is not something that will move in one direction or unidirection. What we do is we do not actually, so as is a mark-to-market portfolio, we only take losses of our P&L. We do not take unrealized profits till the time they are realized. So this will continue till the time we think that it's appropriate to take on some profits. So I think that the trend will continue. I don't see that there's going to be too much of a problem, but yes, I mean, these gains may not be as extraordinary as what they've been before.
So we are continuing to keep our MTN yields with us. We're not in a hurry to recognize the income. We will see how the COVID plays out, and we will see when we have to recognize our gains. A simple answer.
Sure, sir. Thanks. Very helpful.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jaiprakash B from HSBC. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thank you for taking my question. I just want to know the date on these percentages that were talked about for the moratorium. Like, is that June end or as of today?
June end. These numbers are as of June end.
So after June, like what is the traction of people opting for moratorium that you have seen till date? Like, is there any rough percentage?
I don't think I have a data point right now, but I can assure you that the collections are only improving. And if you look at our commercial vehicle, or you look at our credit card, PL, as well as our microfinance, we are seeing collections improving. So we are not seeing any deterioration in our collections. So if that's what, and there is no new demand for a moratorium which has come in the corporate segment.
Okay, thanks for that. And have you given the option to all your customers, or is there any selection that you have made for extending the moratorium 2.0?
So I just told you, moratorium 1.0 was an opt-out for all retail and an opt-in for corporate. In moratorium 2.0, we gave an opt-in to all except microfinance.
Okay. So, and one more thing, why has the GNPA increased by 0.05%, sir? Like, any clarity on that?
There is a base effect of the loan book going down. That is all the differences. The loan book was, advances were 2,07,000, it was 1,90,000. That's the effect.
Okay. Right. Thanks for that, sir. And last question, any guidance for loan growth for this particular year? Like, is there any target or budget that you have in mind for the year 2021?
So, I just want to tell you that we love growth, and as I said before in my earlier commentary, we are seeing green shoots which are coming back in the vehicle part of our business, specifically in scooter loans, tractor, as well as motor vehicles. So I think we will continue to grow that business. We are also seeing green shoots in the rural part of our economy, and we believe that the microfinance business will come back, and it is I think August and September will see new disbursement levels, and I think you will start seeing that. We are already seeing 86% of our class in terms of numbers. So we have reduced the ticket size, and you will see how many districts come to the collection level which you want to see at an efficiency level, and we start increasing the ticket sizes there. On the commercial vehicle side, the commercial vehicle side, I think will come back only by Q3. And we believe that will come back, and there is a pent-up demand there, and it will start coming back. On the unsecured side, we are cautious, and by reason we are cautious, and we will be continuous to be cautious on the business as of now. And on the MSME side, I think with the credit guarantee scheme, if it comes in, and some capitalization of interest which will happen on the unsecured as well as on the, I think you will see some growth which will happen. But I think overall for the year, you can assume that the consumer will grow at 8 to 10% and the corporate will go at 4 to 6%. Overall, our growth will be anywhere between 6 to 8% for the year. We are not getting any guidance right now, but we want to remain We will continue to watch this space, and our guidance will come only after the quarter two, where we've seen the moratorium playing out and things stabilizing at the ground level.
Sure, sir. More than answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jay Mundra from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for the opportunity. A couple of questions, sir. Sir, when in your opening remarks you mentioned the credit cost at around 65 basis points. So just wanted to understand, are you including, this is the headline provisions number that you are expecting, or this is the only loan loss provisions that you are seeing, and this is excluding any contingency that you see, or this is the only incremental from now onwards?
I think the 65 basis points which I mentioned is COVID incremental provision which we will be doing and which we have already done for our business as of now. We have seen a flow of 92 basis points on of slippages which will happen because of COVID related issues over all our portfolio. 70% at the rate of 70% PCR, we are saying that it will be 65 basis points. 90% of our portfolio is secured. We have not taken the loan probability default of any securities getting encashed, but we said let's be conservative and take that amount as of now. So that's what it is.
So this is over and above your business as usual credit cost. Is that the understanding, sir? Sorry.
Yeah. This is over and above. So if you look at last year, we were at about 225, but that included a large component of IL&FS, which is now 100% provided. So our starting point for this year is around 135, 140 basis points, and we've already added close to 90% of our COVID costs that someone talked about, because if you're going to be at 65 basis points of incremental delta for COVID on a book of 210 or whatever that number will be at the end of the year, 220, you're talking about 1350 crores of incremental credit cost, and we have already taken 1200 plus on that cost already. So we have contributed most of it already.
Yeah. Okay. And sir, secondly, we used to give SMA 1, SMA 2 numbers. Now, I think in your earlier questions you have mentioned 3,350 crores. Is that the all overdue as of, let's say, June end, or these are the outstanding balance of overdue and under moratorium?
So I think if you look at the SMA 1, 2, the DPDs have been frozen. So if you look at it after February 29, there is not much relevance to that because the DPD counters are not moving. So it's not a really comparable data. We have also, for example, during the previous comments, our MD had commented about having taken some of those accounts already without using the DPD into our non-performing assets in this quarter. So that number must be much lower. But the real numbers for this will come in quarter 3 once the counters are back from September 1st. Because there is some asset classification benefit, there are some payments. So this time that data would not be relevant. So we could see this data on September 30th would be the bedtime because the DPD counters will be back after March.
So this 3,350 crores is the, what is that number? Feb and current balance.
These are outstanding as of February 29th.
These are 3,350. Yeah, they had either zero DPD.
One DPD on 29th February and above.
And they have taken moratorium. So if they had just continued the DPD counter, what RBI, Reserve Bank of India says that they would have become non-performing. For such asset classification benefit, please provide 10% in your standard provision. So these are not non-performing assets. These are clients who are real benefits, and that's the reason they are providing.
This is just a conservative provisioning which the RBI wanted us to do, and we've done that. And it can be released by March 31st as per the RBI guidelines, if we want to release them.
Understood, sir. So, and sir, secondly, on this, so some of the portions of 10% you said of the retail loans which are out of moratorium, but probably we do not know as to what is, as of now they are not paying. So technically, what percentage of this book could be technically come under, let's say, MSME restructuring scheme if you were to sort of implement that? Or have you thought of doing that MSME restructuring scheme if that is?
Yeah. we have, the very clear guidelines on that, which is the credit, guaranteed emergency credit loan, GECL, GCC has given. So our eligibility as per that criteria of loans that we can extend is about 3,200 to 3,300 crores across multiple borrowers. These are non-individual entities as per that definition. We have approved already more than 50 to 60% of these loans. The drawdown has been lesser because our clients have not yet drawn down as maybe they didn't have demand, but we have given the letter documents and it's building up. So we have already offered that, but there's nothing, if there's any change in definition, that books may go up, but that we don't know about that yet. So whatever is eligible, we have already approached our borrowers and given them.
So sorry, sir. Actually, I was asking on MSME restructuring scheme, which the window is still available. So if technically some of these consumer, let's say.
Yeah, so the MSME scheme that the RBI announced in January or February said they have to be GST registered, 25 crores borrower capacity across the system. We had whatever could have been done, we have done in the previous quarter. There's none really now that's eligible under that scheme because GST registration, not everybody will be eligible, only a few had. So the GECL is the other option now. That scheme we are really not seeing much window, but it has a lot of restrictions.
Correct. And wherein you have disbursed around 170 crores. That is the only amount that you have disbursed so far.
May have picked up in the last 2 days, yeah, but between 170 to 150 crores. Nothing material. Because the client is in demand.
Emergency credit scheme, not under the restructuring.
Not under the restructuring.
Yeah, correct. Okay. Great, sir. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of MB Mahesh from Kotak. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Just a few questions from my side. I'll just kind of put the questions in front of you and you can just kind of take it forward. One is on the provisioning line. There's about, if I just kind of exclude the provisions made for COVID specific account on the fraud side, there's about a 350 crores still that you have made. If you could just kind of highlight what it...
Mahesh, your voice is not clear at all. Can you just come closer and speak?
Can you hear now?
Now, Mahesh. Yes.
Hello? Yeah. So you've made roughly about 2,258 crores of provisions. So I'm just kind of looking at the provisioning out there when I do for retail, corporate, the COVID-related provisions, and for the account which was declared as fraud, that comes to about 1,900 crores. There's still another 350 crores of provisions which was done. If you could just kind of give some clarifications on what that pertains to.
That is the standard provision which you had to do for the 10% provision of a loan account which were 1 DPD and above, which had to be done by as per the RBI regulation.
Sure.
Asset classification, 342 crores, 335 or 342 crores. Yeah, that is the provision which is there, Mahesh.
Sure. Yeah. So my second question is the slippages that you're doing on the corporate side. Could you just kind of give us some color as to do they mostly go out of the WB and below portfolio, or have you seen tendencies that it moves outside the WB as well? Just trying to see whether the grading kind of moves internally across the segments and then goes into NPAs.
You're talking about the slippages, Mahesh?
Yeah. So, for example, you've done 1,225 crores of slippages this quarter in the corporate side, and about 1,250 in the quarter before, and 1,237 the quarter before that.
Yeah.
How does it move internally on the rating?
So it goes down the chart. But I think, for example, in the current quarter, more than 90% of the slippage is on standard accounts, which we have conservatively recognized. These accounts did not start as BBB. They started, we are quite well aware that we've been trying to extricate ourselves from some of these accounts, whether it's the diversified group or the media group or some other groups. We have talked about this in the past. There's also a coffee group, as you must be aware. These guys, for example, the coffee group was not a BBB, but I think at a point of time there were some very unfortunate sort of circumstances. There's also a healthcare group that slipped very quickly. So I think all of these have actually emerged from outside the BBB, but as a consequence of the stress, we have sort of taken almost the entire 1,200 crores were sort of taken into NPA, even though they were standard. But if you're talking about how did they move, and if you're not seeing a movement in the rating profile, that is because they had already moved below investment grade in our rating profile in the last quarter.
Oh, perfect. And my final question, in this balance sheet, there has been about a very sharp jump in the balances with bank and money at call. It was roughly about 28,000 crores. If it could just kind of give some color.
Yeah, I just told you that we have excess cash with us, and when you do a reverse repo transaction, you actually move that in balance with other banks. It's not shown as balance with RBI, but as per accounting standards, it's shown as balance with bank. It's a reverse repo of 22,000 crores, which we did because we had excess liquidity. We are sitting on excess liquidity.
So actually almost 24,000.
23,800
crores reverse repo, and another 7,000, right, of excess. Another 13,000, more than 13,000 crores. 13,000 crores of excess. No, 13,000 of excess.
And this is as per the accounting policy, Mahesh, and we followed the accounting policy. This is how it has to be shown in the balance sheet.
Okay, just confirming, because it doesn't come as investment. It just goes straight away to the balance sheet bank.
It doesn't go in the investment at all. Reverse repo doesn't come in the investment.
Okay, perfect. Useful. Okay, useful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nitin Agarwal from Motilal Oswal. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. So, couple of questions. Like, firstly, what will be the promoter holding after this equity issuance and the outstanding warrants that
cannot pass 15%. Diluted cannot pass 15%, including warrants.
Including warrants. Okay. So the warrant that we have issued at the time of Boston acquisition still stays.
Yeah, that stays, Nitin. It is not due until early next year.
Okay. And secondly, when you give this initial projection credit cost in respect to COVID, is it possible for you to share some color on what assumptions are we working with across business segments? Because 65 basis point is quite a manageable number given the profitability that we have. So what are the assumptions that we have used to arrive at this number?
Sure. This is Ramu here, look after this function. So what we did is we had far more data when we did our stress test two second revision that we did now, which we did in the month of June. We had more data on collections across our retail portfolios, across where the economy has opened up data. So for the retail portfolios, we use this data along with all the other economic data and the feedback from the ground and how we contact customers and get an estimation. And as regards the corporate portfolio, the relationship managers had reached out to most borrowers. We had reviewed all the names. We classified these names based on whether they are COVID impacted or they are weak because of COVID. All such names have been taken into account by sector. For example, if there was a sector in hotel, we have exposure to hotels, LRD, we have looked at them closely. And accordingly, wherever the stress was emerging or likely to emerge, these have been factored into our stress testing. We also took into account the likely downgrade in the rating profile of many of the borrowers due to COVID, because of which the RWA will go up and capital requirement will increase. That was also factored in. All these together is how we arrived at this number. We will continue to revise this data based on, there have been activity was very good up to June. There is some more lockdowns that happened during the course of July. We will continue to evaluate this data. We'll also come to know by the end of August what the Reserve Bank of India's plans are on moratorium as well as restructuring as is being talked about. And we will reassess and rework our stress tests based on all the data we have internally as well as external environment and the Reserve Bank, and prepare a revised data and then make, if required, more provisions as required during quarter two.
Okay, sure. And lastly, what is the outstanding BB and below book, if you can quantify that? And now as we consolidate our wholesale advances, where would we like this to settle?
So sub-investment grade book has fallen quarter on quarter. Right now it is around 5.5%. It also includes the one large telecom account. Excluding telecom account, our sub-investment grade is actually at a 5-6 year low. So, and that kind of BB and below book is pretty consistent to the credit cost that we have delivered. So I think that's the level where we will be across the cycle. and we have been the kind of new origination that we are doing. I think these are towards the higher rated granular portfolio. So I think we are bottoming out in terms of the 7 or 10 grade book.
Okay, sure. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Katpalia for closing comments.
Thank you for participating in this call. I know that this was a hectic day. We are open to questions and meetings if you feel that you need further clarifications on our business. I just want to tell you that the business is back on the liability side of the balance sheet is fixed. In my opinion, we'll continue to see us being very comfortable on the liability side of the balance sheet. I think the capital raising, which we wanted to keep quiet and we wanted to do a preference share, it has been done. And you will see the capital coming. The AGM is on August 25th, and you will see the capital coming up in the first or the second week of September. I think growth we are cautious about. We are cautious, but we also want to grow, and we will evaluate growth. This is what is happening in the economy, and I think you will see us getting back onto our growth phase cautiously, but surely. Thank you for your time, and stay safe.